There is a thing that happens in game design, which I have come to refer to as checklist design. This is the exact opposite of designing with intention. Designing with intention is the ability of a game designer to create game mechanics, stats, options, abilities, what have you, that create or encourage or incentivize a particular play experience. Designing with intention is not easy. It's easier in some systems than in others. There definitely is like a difference when you are designing for a robust system versus if you are designing for a less well-designed system. One of those is going to be a lot easier and more fun and more free to let you create than the other. So what is checklist design? Checklist design is basically when you say, all right, we need to have X, Y, and Z things in our game, and they need to each do A, B, and C things in order to qualify or count as or be recognizable as those things. The example off the top of my head is let's say the human race from the Player's Handbook, the 2014 D&D 5th edition Player's Handbook. The base race the base stats for human, you got all your normal stuff. You have normal vision, 30-foot move, you're medium sized, and you get +1 to each ability score. That's it. That's it. That is literally it. And what is the checklist for human design? You need to be generalist, not specialize in any particular kind of thing or trope. You need to be generalist. So that because humans are the hat that humans wear is no hat. You have no hat. You are able to do whatever with basically equal efficiency. But that's really bad. But like on paper, you think, all right, do you have a human race? Yes, we have a human race. Are they generalists? Yes, they are generalists. They don't specialize in anything. You have succeeded on your checklist. Dwarves. Are dwarves tough? Yes. They are dwarves. Are they slow? Yes, they are slow. They are slow and tough. That's how you make dwarves. Let's look at the barbarian rage ability. The iconic ability of the barbarian class. You can't have a barbarian without rage. Rage is central to the barbarian fantasy. You get mad, and with your anger, you get more powerful. What does rage do? Well, it makes you tougher. It does do that. It makes you hit harder. It does do that. You have to keep attacking or taking damage in order to sustain it. It does that. Those are true things. It makes you tougher. It makes you hit harder. But is it good? Like, does it push the barbarian into a particular fantasy or a particular play style? I mean, kinda. It makes the barbarian make a lot of bad decisions. You have to go into melee. Melee is a bad place to be. And the advantages that it gives you are not sufficient to make up for that. So what ends up happening is that you have the fantasy is I am an incredibly tough person. I can take all kinds of punishment. I can be the tank of the party because I'm so tough. And I hit extra hard because I get mad. People are going to hit me to sustain my rage, and I'm going to hit them to sustain my rage. And then I'm going to kill them because I'm very angry and I'm hitting harder than usual. That's the fantasy. What ends up happening is you go in, you do like 2 extra points of damage. You get controlled such that you're not able to take damage, or you're not able to take damage or make attacks. So your rage falls off, or you just get focused down because you're not that tough. If the opponent does not, or if the enemies are not putting down bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing damage, your rage actually doesn't make you any tougher. Unless you're a bear totem barbarian, which that's a whole other can of worms. Locking what should be core features behind subclasses is a thing 5th edition does all the time. But ignoring that, you are only tougher against basic weapon users or natural weapon users. As soon as somebody starts throwing spells or breath weapons or psychic attacks or anything like that, anything that doesn't deal physical damage, you're not any tougher than normal. You have no benefit from your rage on that. And the damage that you deal is 2 extra damage from raging. So this is a disconnect between the fantasy and the actual play experience that is being designed. This happens all over the place. I use the Barbarian as an example because it is the most fresh on my mind. I spent a long time playing a Barbarian and got very frustrated with this specific difficulty. But it happens everywhere. Whenever you're looking at a feature that is supposed to do something, ask yourself, is this actually going to modify my play experience in the way that is intended? Your weapon styles. The fighter in 5th edition is supposed to be like a master of weapons. So you have different fighting styles. Oh, okay, you can specialize in different fighting styles. Well, what happens if you pick the wrong fighting style? But that's not even a good way to go about it. So you've got like the high tier fighting styles. You've got which is basically archery. Archery is the best fighting style, like pretty much without exception. Archery is the best fighting style, followed by defense, because AC is a god stat. And then the rest, you almost kind of don't use at all. Like, they're not good, and they don't synergize with anything else. Defense synergizes with everything, and archery is the best fighting style because ranged is really strong, and bonuses to hit are really strong. +2 to hit? Are you kidding me? It's very, very powerful. So what is the play experience of that feature? Do fighting styles really make the fighter good at fighting? Do extra attacks make you feel like a master of combat? They might, in contexts other than 5th edition, they could potentially be so. Because, like, literally, at 5th level, your at-will damage output has doubled. Oh, cool. But it took up your entire 5th level to do it. It's the only thing you get at that level, and casters get the same thing on their cantrips for free. Oh. Okay, well, that's still checklist design. You're still telling the fighter, like, oh, hey, you get this cool feature at 5th level, lets you make twice as many attacks as you normally could. That's really cool, isn't it? No, that's checklist design. You're literally just going off a checklist, like, oh, the fighter needs to make a lot of attacks. Okay, the barbarian needs to have rage. Rage needs to make you hit harder and be tougher. It does all of those things technically on paper. Regardless of the actual play experience, you have met your checklist. You have checked off the items. Therefore, it is a complete design. And therefore, you can say to people who are playing other games, like, oh, yeah, we have the barbarian. Our barbarian gets to, turn on his rage, and he gets really powerful because he's hitting harder and he's tougher. And, he gets advantage on strength checks that you make all the time, I guess, maybe, perhaps. So the thing about ability checks, maybe I'll make a whole video on this, actually. Ability checks are so underutilized in 5th edition. They basically only come up if the DM prompts them. For the most part. There are a couple of exceptions. So what is what's the advantage on strength gonna do if you're trying to break a grapple? But I tell you what, if you are using your action to break a grapple, you are risking losing your rage because you're not making an attack. And if no one's attacking you and you're not making an attack, you lose your rage. So even that's not a great idea. But that grappling is pretty much the only time when you definitely in the rules need to make a strength check. And then you get advantage if you're raging. Neat. You don't have enough rages to spend on just doing that, though. Because the rages are, for some reason, a limited resource. They are a single use of rage is less effective in general than a first level spell. And barbarians get 2 rages per day for a while. I can't remember when they get their 3rd rage. But anyways, that's a whole other matter. I don't want to talk about the barbarian specifically. This is not about the barbarian. This is about checklist design and how it is the opposite of designing with intent. When you design with intent, you know in your head what you want the play experience to look like, and you're going to create mechanics that move they're going to move the play experience in that direction. It's going to incentivize certain behaviors. It's going to allow characters to do things to create that experience that they couldn't do baseline. That's designing with intent. Checklist design does not care about the end state. It says we need to have a race or a feat or a class feature that does this list of things, and so we will check off that list and call it done. The monk makes unarmed attacks. It's going to do flurry of blows. It uses key points to do special supernatural abilities. But the key is so limited that you can't really use it freely, which means that your monk fantasy is really constrained because you can't really afford to spend key on luxury things. Flurry of blows doesn't even bring monk up to the baseline of other classes in terms of damage. So you are spending a precious resource, more precious than spell slots, to almost keep up. That's a bad fantasy, but it hits the checklist. This is not just a matter of like poor balance. Like they didn't just miscalculate things. They literally didn't care. My perception, this is my opinion, they didn't care what the final gameplay experience is. They just wanted to hit that checklist to say, we have a monk. It has better AC than normal while unarmored. Doesn't have good AC while unarmored, but it has better than normal. It has unarmed attacks, just like a D4. Oh no, in 1D&D, it's upgraded to a D6. They fixed the monk. Real ultimate power. All these things sort of add up to a list of monk abilities, these iconic monk abilities. You can catch arrows out of the air, you can slow fall, but it doesn't make a cohesive gameplay experience. And the reason why the monk is considered a very bad class is because these abilities are not really designed to create a good gameplay experience. They're not designed to make a strong monk. They are literally designed just to check off all the boxes on the list of what makes a class a monk. That is why the monk is bad. That's why the barbarian is bad. That's why the rogue is bad. That's why the fighter is bad. And it's why half-casters have problems. I wouldn't necessarily go so far as to say they're bad. The Ranger and the Paladin are pretty mid-tier classes. But they do have problems that are inherent in the way that the class is designed because of this kind of mentality. So anyways, I see checklist design all over 5th edition. And if you look for it, I'm sure you can find it too. It happens pretty infrequently in other games. Or at least the other games that I play. I guess I just don't play the games that have a lot of it or would have a lot of it. So yeah, that's something to watch out for. If you're an amateur designer, try not to design by checklist. Design with intent. Know what kind of game experience, what kind of processes and outcomes you want for your players, and design mechanics that create those outcomes. Don't just have a list of things that a class or a race or whatever option needs to have in order to qualify as a thing. Because that's not going to get you anywhere.